This is pictures from downtown. I'm just going to pan around because they're pretty dramatic. Heavy rain, potential for some hail. If you're just joining us on the stream, we talked a minute or two ago about these clouds that are lowering down toward the ground, getting pretty close in some cases. This is not a tornado setup per se, but we can have land spouts, and that's an intersection of various boundaries, and they're not officially tornadoes, not attached to an apparent thunderstorm directly, but they can spin up and cause some 80-mile-an-hour winds and certainly cause some minor damage as well, so do be aware of that. I would not travel anywhere around downtown or the metro Amarillo area, and eventually including near and north of Canyon as well, because this hail may come up on you pretty quickly. I'm going to jump around and show you several different things here. Let's try this radar picture. That's probably the closest for downtown at the moment. What I'm watching for is you see Amarillo in the center part of your screen, and then Bishop Hills on the left part. In the thunderstorm somewhere, it may still be aloft, but there is, again, baseball-size hail. What these storms have been doing is developing very, very rapidly. They'll develop some hail, which we had one report of baseball-size hail in the more northern portion of Potter County, and then they start to weaken fairly rapidly, which causes several problems. The hail comes down, extremely heavy rain comes down, and as they weaken and that cold, heavy air hits the ground and fans out, it can create some 60 to 70-mile-an-hour straight-line winds that can also obviously be a problem. But you can also see outflow boundaries here. Let me just go ahead and draw a couple of things here. I'm going to pause this. What developed this cell coming through downtown right now is an outflow boundary. It's like a little miniature cold front. That big, cold, heavy ball of air comes crashing to the ground, and it undercuts the warm, humid air that we've felt through the day today, and that instability helps lift up new updrafts, and so that's what's getting ready to come through downtown right now. But we wanted to go ahead and start the stream. It's not a tornado warning, but there is a severe thunderstorm warning. But the potential, again, for at least golf ball size hail is absolutely there for the west side of town, and then also really northwest side of town. And then you can see the motion on this cell right here is moving southwest. So it looks like it's going to come through downtown here in the next minute or two. Next minute or two. Something else to keep an eye on. See this now cell that's developing on the northwest side of Canyon, and it's about to hit this outflow boundary. I'm talking about this cell right here, this outflow boundary. That will likely enhance, and in fact it's probably already doing it, enhance the strength of that cell on the north side or just north of Canyon as it moves toward Lake Tanglewood, comes across the highway. Just to get your bearings here, this is 27 right there from Amarillo. So it's just on the west side of 27 right now, but you can see the pink coming in there in the last picture or two. There's hail in that. It may not be reaching the ground yet, but it is at least 1-inch hail, probably with, pardon me, some hailstones even a little bigger than that. Let's go a little further west as well. Talk about that cell. That one's west of Bushland. That one is strengthening. See the outflow boundary? Come right through there. So that's what's helping enhance that one. So that one may produce, even again, some golf ball size hail. We'll move a little bit further to the west. Come on, turn off. I can't get that to turn off. My telestrator. Okay. Okay, there we go. South of Vega, new cell going up there as well, some potential hail there. But that one's largely out in open country, but that would continue moving toward the I-27 corridor. Let's pan out and look at some of these other storms. We have a flood advisory in and around Panhandle, and we're talking right in there because of heavy runoff from an earlier storm. Now we have another storm that is right over town, drifting southeastward. So that's going to exacerbate. We don't have a flash flood warning yet, I don't believe, but that's going to exacerbate the heavy, heavy rain and the flooding problem, potential flooding problem in and around Panhandle, southward toward Interstate 40, eventually toward Groom as well. There's an outflow boundary heading right toward Groom. So you're going to get some heavy rain here probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes at the outside. Let me expand the view a little bit farther. And we see heavy rain now moving away from Miami, staying largely north of Mobile, but we got the pink in there. So once again, there is that potential for some hail. So Briscoe, I would prepare for some 1 inch, potentially 1 inch hail. Anywhere north of Wheeler, in between Briscoe, potentially some 1 inch hail there as well. Coming back south of town, new storms strengthening, not severe, but that little box you see is a special weather statement. So south of Happy, either side of Interstate 27, south of Happy, we've got heavy rain there. There's some hail just west of town, and then that other cell just southwest of Nazareth is moving northeastward. So if you're watching in Nazareth, or you know anybody in that town, you might want to call them. They've got moments, 5 minutes or probably less, before some heavy rain and some hail picks up there. It looks like the hail core on that one is increasing in intensity. So let's go back over to our downtown tower cam. Take a little look. I'm going to move off so I can manipulate this thing. It's raining in Amarillo right now, but just looking west of town, that is our heavy, heavy rain and hail core. That's looking southwest now, and then looking southward. That's sort of the interchange on the highways right there. And so it's moving in this picture from right to left, and that heavy rain's going to pick up. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around and just see what else we're looking at. Obviously some very moisture-laden thunderstorms, pretty good lightning show as well. This is the stuff up toward Panhandle, or south of Panhandle now, and north of Groom. And we got a heavy cell just north of downtown as well. So any of these, again, have the potential for, I'm going to continue to say baseball size hail, but certainly golf ball size hail. And so we wanted to go ahead and put on the stream, no tornado warnings right now. Land spouts are a possibility, but let me go back and try a different camera as well, see what it looks like from Bushland. And we'll just kind of sit with you and kind of walk you through these storms as they kind of push on through town, just to let you know what's happening. Let's try Bushland and pan that one over, looking back toward Amarillo. Okay, this is an interesting point too. Let's zoom in on this. These are obviously scary looking, and during severe weather season, we tell you to look for lowerings, right? Clearly that's a lowering, but this again is not a tornado situation. We don't have the dynamics, the upper level wind shear to produce tornadoes. Doesn't mean they can't happen, but we've not gotten any indication of that at this point in time. But what can happen near these outflow boundaries is a land spout. And so something close to that could drop down. It would look like a funnel. It is a funnel. It's not necessarily attached right to the parent thunderstorm, but these land spouts can spin up fairly quickly. You're not going to see a warning for them necessarily from the Weather Service, but these land spouts can get to maybe 80 miles an hour, give or take, and cause some damage. So that is obviously a scary looking cloud. It is something to watch, but not to be inherently afraid of. And we've seen these several times, these lowerings. If we stayed on that one, I think we would see it start to get softened a little bit and then start to dissipate. But that again is the Bushland Tower Cam. Let's kind of pan around, see this is looking southward. And you see the back edge of one of the heavier rain cores. That's the one probably west of Happy. We'll go a little further back toward Vega and Adrian. And there we go. That's another one. That one's right over the highway there. That is the cell that is east of Vega now. So that one's coming right down the highway. You can see the highway in the lower portion of your screen. That's looking west, but traffic's still obviously moving eastbound, but there's some very heavy rain and potentially some large hail in that one. We'll come back around to the north on this Bushland Tower Cam. We'll see the tower in a second. There that is. And then we'll come back around and check on our lowering. Now we're looking eastward. Amarillo's in the distance there. You can't see it through the rain right now. And then we've made a full circle. See how it's looking a little skinnier, a little more ragged. So once again, my point on that is not to be alarmed by it, but keep an eye on them. But that's not necessarily what we're looking for in the springtime, like a wall cloud that's going to produce a funnel and eventually a tornado. So let's go back to our radars. I'm going to zoom in on downtown Amarillo. And the heaviest returns, radar signatures, is the pink. And so clearly that is just on the west side of town right now, heading in a southeasterly direction. These thunderstorms don't necessarily, as they show on radar, the hail's not necessarily coming out at any one given moment. It still may be aloft and developing, but once it starts to lose its updraft or its lift, that hail will come out. So we've been talking mainly about west and south of Amarillo proper, but now let's start to talk about south, southeast, and even east. Just to get your bearings, this darker hole is the radar at the airport where the Weather Service is. So pretty much all of Amarillo included in that hail potential. And once again, we see new outflow boundaries. See the little skinny line right there that's going to produce new updrafts. And the one that we talked about a minute ago, this outflow boundary, miniature cold front, lift instability is about to intersect with this thunderstorm. So Timber Creek Canyon, Tanglewood, it's right over 27 right now. So east of 27, north of Canyon, south of the Loop, your potential is going to go up here in the next couple of minutes for extremely heavy rain and again some golf ball size hail. Rain here at the TV station, north side of town. I did not hear any hail, thankfully. Everybody here, their car is appreciative of that. The overall setup for this is we're going to continue with these for several more hours, probably at least until 9 or 10 o'clock, and then they would start to weaken a little bit. But the flooding potential, the runoff potential is going to be very, very high as well. We did get one report, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but we got about 3/4 of an inch under one of these things in 15 minutes, which is obviously an extremely, extremely heavy rainfall rate. So once again, we're just kind of watching this come through Amarillo. That's why we wanted to get on the stream to let you know the hail potential. One report of baseball, I did see 2-inch measurement, 2-inch hailstone. And what I'm going to do while you watch radar is come back and check in with our friends at the Weather Service. And actually, I'm going to go back to this so you can take a look at our storm southeast of Bushland. And I'm just going to go through and check with our friends at the Weather Service, see what kind of reports we're getting. Got some pictures. There's better than quarter size, $half size hail. Don't know the exact location. Oh, Plains and Bell, possible. Yeah. Comes from the Panhandle Regional Advisory Council. So Plains and Bell, better than 1-inch hail there. Severe thunderstorm warnings obviously continue. 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, golf balls possible. Wheeler, Gray, Roberts counties. That severe thunderstorm warning is going to expire soon, which is good news. I'll take you there in just a second. And had a report just about 5 minutes ago of golf ball size hail between Coulter and Bell. So this is just ground truth verification of what we were talking about this hail potential here. And in the hospital district, so that tracks with what we saw, golf ball size hail there. So let's look ahead again and see if we can get a better idea where that hail core might be heading. So what I'm talking about here is this is the hail core that produced golf balls in the hospital district, which is obviously west of town. And so the motion is in this direction. So once again, south, maybe too late, you may already be feeling it, but southeast and the east-southeast side of town, basically along Interstate 40 and south of town on Interstate 40, your hail potential is going to go up in the next couple of minutes. So I've said a couple of times, if you want to try and make some quick preparations, and don't wait too long, and don't think that you get a couple of pea-sized hailstones, it's going to be okay. But something like pulling the car in the garage, not a bad idea. That said, the first couple of hailstones could be large, and then they might get very large in no time at all. So again, toward golf ball size hail, even if you're getting some pea-sized hail. Check with our friends at the Weather Service again. Golf balls north of Canyon, just north side of Canyon. which reminds me, I want to check in with my wife and see if she has sent me anything. Oh yeah, Tracy, my wife, we have some close to quarter-size hail at the house. So we live just a couple miles north of Canyon, so that verifies from that report as well. Obviously, there's going to be some heavy, potentially flooding rain there. Stand by just a second. Okay, let's take a little broader view, and we'll take a little tour, see where each of these are going. Northern portion of the region, thunderstorm chances much, much lower. Obviously nothing going on right now. We want to watch, though, a little later on tonight. Here's a cell that is coming south-southeastward across Union County. There's a little disturbance that's going to drive another round potentially, or enhance this round of thunderstorms a little later on this evening, coming out of southern Colorado into northern New Mexico. So we'll watch to see, just because you're across the northern, northwestern portion of the region, you're not getting anything now, doesn't mean that you won't a little bit later on tonight. So we'll watch that. Heavy downpours again. Let's kind of take the tour, see if we can get an idea where they're going. South of Vega, south of 40. Yep. Something for me, or are you just coming in? Okay. So that particular cell, it's on the edge of quarter-size hail, but there's an outflow boundary heading for it, so some enhancement there, some strengthening of that cell may occur. Here's the one that produced the quarter-size hail. Yeah, that's right over my house. And we're talking about near Happy State Bank football stadium on the north side of town, where the highway kind of splits there. So that's going to go just to the east and south, well, just north of downtown. So northeast, east of downtown on the road that goes out to Paladuro Canyon, especially there's some newer developments there. Your hail potential is going to pick up here in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. Our Amarillo storm getting some enhancement now on this part of the cell. So that is inside or north of 335. Let me get you some directions here. Right there is the big bend of 35 right there. So large hail, again, potentially baseball-size hail, not out of the question, just inside the big corner, the big bend where it goes from heading east to heading north on 335. And something else just to watch, I've mentioned the potential for land spouts a couple of times, but sometimes you can get something that develops right in a notch like this. Let me stop. Just because we've got wind probably coming this way and this way, sometimes you can get a little spin up. I don't see specific evidence of that right now. Let me check the velocity product, but well, there's some strong winds there right underneath where. So that is, let's do a little measurement here. So again, this is just inside the loop. I'm gonna do some measurements now. We got some winds. See, that's going to 50 to 60 mile an hour straight line winds. I don't see it necessarily wrapping up to produce a tornado, but I've mentioned a couple times the potential for a land spout, which is certainly possible here, and then the winds in that case could go to 80 miles per hour. So back onto our reflectivity product. These will continue to what we call sometimes cycle, or actually new updrafts develop with all these outflow boundaries. So I want you to be aware of that. Just because you haven't gotten anything yet, or maybe even you see one if you're out looking around, and please be careful doing that. But if you see a thunderstorm cell that may be a couple miles in either direction from you, these new updrafts will develop fairly quickly, and so they could come and develop over you with little warning, little notice. And then obviously the potential for thunder and lightning. We got a report from Steve Kirsch from Pantex. They obviously pay very careful attention to lightning, but these are fairly small, tight little cells. But the lightning, we got a report from Steve that the lightning, in one case, a cloud to ground lightning strike traveled about 12 miles away from the parent thunderstorm, which is a long, long way. So that lightning potential is absolutely there as well. So let me look to the south. We had some heavy rain heading toward 27. So in Tulia now, I think Happy you'll be spared from this latest one, but we've got what's called a cell merger going on right here. See how the two are coming together? In this particular case, I think that's probably going to increase the instability or increase the strength of this one, the updraft, which means that the potential for hail to develop inside of that circle over the next 5 minutes or so is very, very high. And then eventually it may start to weaken and gravity will take over. And that means that some hail potential right on 27 north and south of Tulia is going to increase. So do be aware of that. Still the same potential for some golf ball size hail. And then that would reach southward toward Cress. Checking on, got a report from Canyon. And if you'll bear with me for just a minute. Okay, yep, 2-inch hail. Nathan Musto, 2-inch hail. He's in Canyon. So again, that's near our place. But it's just verifying what we're seeing on radar. So that potential is going to continue. I think really until at least 8 o'clock and probably closer to between 8 and 9, these heavy downpours will continue. Then they should start to weaken a little bit. But continued new development is possible as we go on through the next couple of hours. And then it's going to kind of continue, it's going to continue the flooding or the heavy runoff threat, because some of these rainfall rates could be close to 2 inches, per hour, which will cause some street flooding, things like that. All right, back on radar. Actually, let's just check. Maybe we'll do a tower cam tour just for something different to look at. This is again looking southeastward from Bushland. We got some rain there. I think there's another lowering right there. Not as dark, so it's not as scary looking, but again, these outflow boundaries will produce potentially these land spouts. So I want you to be aware of that. Those could come up pretty quickly and cause some damage, again, and not be, and not necessarily be expected. You swing back around to the south and the west. Here is the cell that is heading along and south of Interstate 40. Again, looking westward from Bushland. Downtown, obviously heavy rain here. Let's go down and look at the top of the XL building. I don't see any hail. This would be melting pretty quickly if it falls, but we'll kind of pan around. And you can see the water cascading down. It's not as particularly heavy as far as the intensity right now in downtown. That's obviously Hodgetown. They pulled the tarp over the infield there. So I think for downtown, the threat is going to be diminishing. We'll go back to the actual radar here in just a second. And we're just sort of in it in downtown, so the picture is not necessarily as pretty. Oh, and there's a little thinning in the cloud, so that verifies what I just said about rain will probably start to let up in Amarillo if it's not done so already. But yeah, a little thinning, peeking out. Interesting. Okay, just for kicks, let's look at, or I'm going to look at the Lake Meredith cam. Nothing there. Okay, back on radar. So again, we talked about the potential for some hail with a cell merger for Tulia and areas especially westward. Happy you should be okay. Cress to the north. Let's give it, well, in Tulia, let's give it 5 minutes or less. Again, I keep saying if you want to pull the car in the garage or something similar, you've got a minute or two to do that. Maybe 10 minutes from areas of Cress northward. Beyond that, we will move back into Amarillo. There's a lot of pink in there. In Canyon, the cell has moved away from you. It really looks like it's moving more in an easterly direction. So 217 is the road that goes from Canyon out to Paladuro Canyon. So if you are north of that road, Timber Creek Canyon, where it says Lake Tanglewood, heavy rain, some maybe up to quarter-size hail potential is there. But then just to the north of that, this is the most concerning right here. And we're seeing more and more reports of golf ball size hail. Here's another outflow boundary that's initiating or gonna interact with that. See the new cell that's developing? That's what they do. They undercut that warm, moist, humid, unstable air and start it to rise. So hail potential again. Let me drill down, see if I can get you a better look at the loop here, just to get you a location. Okay, the pink is the most threatening. This is the 335 loop heading south from 40. That's the big bend over to Hollywood Road right there, and I'll end that right at 27. So south side of town and eventually just outside the loop. The motion of the development seems to be in an easterly or southeasterly direction. So eventually it gets out into open country, which is good, but then new cells, new updrafts could develop as well. In downtown Amarillo, there is still the potential. I see some pretty high reflectivities there. Again, just basically talking about the pink on the west side of town coming into an overtown right now, which makes me want to go back to our downtown camera. And that's Bushland. Let me go back to downtown. There we go. Okay, so that may be a loft, a lot of that right now. It doesn't look too heavy, but still that potential for some hail in there. Okay. Going west of town, south of Bushland now. Talking about this particular cell right here. That one, you know, still maintaining the potential for at least quarter-size hail. And we haven't checked on this one on the east side of town yet. I'm going to see, that's going to be west of Groom, southwest of Groom, but it's crossing the highway right now. If you potentially know anybody who wants to head east out of Amarillo or west from Groom, truckers, anything like that, you might know if you want to give them a call and say, yeah, just west of Groom, a couple miles west of Groom, we got some heavy rain coming through here and the potential for some hail. So you obviously don't want to be driving down the highway in that. That's north of Claude, as you can see, and west of Groom. That's probably one of the choice updrafts or cells right now that is better than at least golf ball size hail, if not better. All right, let me check on, take that over so you can see. I talked about all that without punching up the radar. West of Groom, north of Claude. Looks like it's going to go near and just west and east, southwest of Groom. And in Amarillo, you can kind of see the rain picking up again too. All right, let me check with our friends at the Weather Service right now. 1 1/4 as the $half size hail. Let me check on where that was. These are all just going to be hail reports that just sort of goes and verifies what we are talking about. If my computer will cooperate with me. So here's a 1.25 inch hail report from Potter County. Location on that 6 miles northwest of Amarillo, so that verified what we saw coming in. And looking for other pictures, other reports. Obviously severe thunderstorm warnings. I'm going to try and switch over to, excuse me for getting out of the shot here. Let's go through on this computer for a minute. Here's the broad view, and we'll spend a minute with this computer. Broad view, obviously, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings all across the Interstate 40 corridor from east to west, either east or west Amarillo. Here are the current warnings that are in place, and relatively new is a flash flood warning for Panhandle. That's going to be this red box right here. I want to get the text from the Weather Service on that one. That was just a few minutes ago, short time ago issued. No, I'm sorry, let me check on that. And flash flood warning for Carson County. That at this point is going to be until 10 o'clock. Rainfall rates are, we've already seen between 2 and 3 inches of rain has fallen. Another 1 to 2 inches per hour is possible. And flash flooding is obviously possible as well. So that's going to be from White Deer, southwestward along 60 and through Panhandle. Once again, that's a flash flood warning that is currently in effect for that area. Flood advisory, and let me get back to this, in the green box. So that includes all of Amarillo. Does not go all the way to Canyon, but you can see Lake Tanglewood, basically either side, inside and outside of the loop, both north and south, east and west of town. Okay, let me jump ahead And we're going to go southward toward Canyon. And take these off. There we go. All right. Mapping's a little different on this one. Okay, some good news right in the center of your picture here. We've got our main hail core, and it has now peaked in intensity, which means that it's probably falling out right on and around our loop marker. That's the loop right there. And you see the amount of purple decreasing, which is going to create extremely heavy rain, but it's a sign that it is not necessarily producing new hail, and it will be falling out. Unfortunately, it's just to the southwest or southeast rather of town, as opposed to out in the open. But that cell will be moving out into the open and likely weakening a little bit. Let's go a little further east, just east of Conway, west of Groom. This cell right here is moving in a southeasterly or developing in a southeasterly direction. So that would eventually take its development toward Goodnight and areas east of Claude and 287. So if you know anybody there, let them know. Potential for golf ball size hail is absolutely there. All right, I'm going to pan out again. Check on our western storm. That one's holding its own near Bushland. We can maybe get a look at that one on tower cam here in a few minutes. But the hail course south of 40, if it continues on its current path, it would go toward the southwestern side of the loop, right in, hang on, right in here. That's the southwestern portion of the loop, or the bend, and then it goes, obviously, and meets 27 or Hollywood Road. So that may go in near west, just southwest of that circle that I just drew. So there's some hail potential there. All right. Here's the broader view. Oh, let's go back down to Tulia. Good news here, this one's weakening. See the amount of purple and the overall coverage decreasing as it moved through Nazareth. So that's going to be really good news for Tulia. South of Happy, it is south of Happy, you're okay. North of Cress, still some heavy rain, maybe some pea-sized hail, but that one is really good news. It is weakening extremely quickly, meaning heavy rain, but no new hail development at this point. Let's go into New Mexico. These are developing pretty rapidly. Could be some small to maybe even dime-sized hailstones in and around Portales, westward toward Floyd. That cell's moving toward you. I think your heavy rain and some hail are going to pick up here in just a couple of minutes. In Portales, that cell will move away from you over the next 5 to 10 minutes, but then the one to the west of you will likely come, probably going to be 20 to 30 minutes at the outside in between the two. All right, it has quieted here at the television station. I hope it's quieting at your house. This one's probably going to become the new one of choice here. So in between that yellow line you see in between Conway and Groom, that's Interstate 40, and you can see that developing very rapidly southward just east of Claude. Claude, you're not out of the woods, but from that cell it's not going to come through your area, but it will develop along 287 just east, or you want to call it southeast of Claude, and Goodnight, I would prepare for the potential for some hail in your area. And I think that southeastward development will likely continue. All right, back on the Weather Service chat. See what we get from them. Since the heaviest storm, or heaviest rain, is moving through and past Amarillo right now, we may just take a brief break and do some analysis and check in with the Weather Service. Just in a few minutes ago, let's see, pictures of nickel-size hail. Give me just a second to evaluate this. Maybe seeing some power poles pushed over. Can't really tell for sure in that picture. Okay, what I'm going to do is punch up radar, do a little bit of analysis. We'll keep the stream going for a few minutes, and I'll come right back. Okay, going to jump back in here and get you a little bit of an analysis, kind of an update, and I think that we'll end the stream here in a minute or two, but we'll take a little radar tour first. Obviously, the heaviest stuff has come through Amarillo. Hope nothing too bad at your house. The largest hail core right now, I'm going to come back here, is west of Groom and heading southeastward. So it's going to be in between 40 and 287, but in good night I would prepare for the potential for that to roll through, and then anywhere along and north of 287, I think Groom, you're spared from this hail core. The one that produced hail in and around Amarillo has weakened. It's now primarily heavy rain as it moves past the southeastern portion of the loop, and that will likely go toward Claude along 287. So anywhere in between 40 and Claude, heavy rain will pick up for you. Other areas are just going to kind of turn to heavy rain now over the next couple of minutes. All of these cells west of town have the potential to strengthen briefly for a minute or two, but I think that large hail potential is going to decrease or continue to do so. We've had several rounds of storms in and around Nazareth. They have demonstrated the same behavior. They peak a little bit. We could get some dimes, maybe a couple of nickel-sized hailstones. Again, good news for Tulia. It just doesn't seem to want to develop any further east toward Tulia, but just know Tulia westward toward Nazareth, there is some potential there. All right, into the southwestern portion of the region in and around Roosevelt County. These are actually strengthening a little bit. Heavy rain, the potential again for at least some dime to nickel-sized hail, if not a little bit larger, in and around Portales, south of Clovis, including Roosevelt County. Those will continue moving east-southeastward and in toward the Lubbock market. So know in Roosevelt County, at least another hour to 2 hours at the outside of these hit and miss start and stop storms. Again, this is not a tornado situation. We talked about the potential for landspouts. That's going to decrease as well. But straight line winds, if you get near any of these to 60, 70 miles per hour, are not out of the question. And again, the potential for that large hail, that tennis ball size hail or golf ball size hail, is decreasing. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. If we need to break in on TV or start the stream again, of course, we'll do that. And if not, join us for the news at 10. Got a number of good-looking hail pictures that we'll share, and we'll check our feeds and see what pictures you've sent in as well as this storm system kind of winds down, or the storm system winds down for downtown Amarillo and surrounding areas. We'll come back if we need to. And we thank you for staying with us. Join us at 10 here at News Channel 10.